everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Yes, I did get a haircut. I'm super happy. I also did highlights. This was the 13th of August. I'm super happy with my hair. I love it. Let's get into the video. I'm going to be reading 3 books in this video, 2 of which I'm just going to try to get done, and then the third one I'm just going to read and just get as far as I can in this video. The first book I'll be reading is Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm using this edition of The Lord of the Rings, which is all 3 books in one: The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. Two Towers is the book that I'm just going to be reading in this video. I'm not going to be trying to finish it. Next up, one of the books that I'm planning to finish up is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I'm really interested in this so far. It sounded right up my alley. It's summery, it's horror, it's mermaids, it's mockumentaries about mythical beings, magical creatures, right up my alley. And last but not least is Set's Gods of the Duat, Book 1, and The Gods Universe, Book 8, I believe, by Alyssa Thorne, because this is part of 2 different series, a trilogy and then a 10-book series. I tried reading the earlier books in the 10-book series. I was just checking the name of the series, and it's called The Gods Universe. I tried reading some of the other books. You have Hades, you have Medusa, Charon, Thanatos, and a couple others. Like, I tried reading them. I couldn't get into those ones for whatever reason, so I just decided to move on to this one, since technically the Egyptian gods are part of their own trilogy, aside from being within the Gods Universe series. And this way too, I don't have to commit to however many books before this one. I want to make a small Lord of the Rings preface before getting into this video. I grew up on the movies. I grew up on the Rankin and Bass animated Hobbit with its really fugly animation. And I grew up on Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, and in my early teens years, 2012 to 2014 I believe, is when Peter Jackson's live-action Hobbit trilogy came out. I love the live-action Hobbit trilogy. I have my issues with it, but I love it nonetheless. I am nervous about Amazon's Rings of Power series. I'll give it a shot, and has to charge somewhat, and I'm usually reading Lord of the Rings before bed for about half an hour, so I'm going to read Into the Drowning Deep for a little bit. And I have Steven Spielberg's 2012 Lincoln playing in the background. I am 19 pages in. I started Zone 1 Pelagic. Same post-it noting, tabbing, I guess is the right word. And yes, I tab into the pages just because it bothers me when they stick out. I'm 19 pages in. I'm probably going to do a bit more reading, but I wanted to update because honestly, this is such a big corporation reaction. Spoilers ahead, like a little spoiler. It's not a spoiler in the overarching story, or does it seem like a big spoiler in the overarching story, but it is a little bit of a spoiler in relation to Imagine Network. While we remain shocked and saddened by this incident, we are gratified that the court has recognized our lack of culpability, said Mr. Benjamin Yant, president of the Imagine Network. The loss of the Arcticus was an unpredictable tragedy. We are doing everything we can to cooperate with authorities and determine what happened to our people. John Sagers, father of Giovanni Sagers, captain of the Arcticus, had this to say: "Those bastards at Imagine don't care about my daughter. They don't care about anything except their damned ratings. They're still going forward with the documentary. Did you hear that? They're still going forward." Like, as I said before reading that quote, it's such a big corporation response, even for like a corporation that focuses on making mockumentaries. It's such a big corp reaction where it's like they care more about the money, about the ratings, about the views than they do about the people and the lives that were lost. I'm really enjoying this book so far. Although I'm only 19 pages in, it's really good so far. It's day 2 of the reading vlog. So far, it's going okay. Yesterday, before I started recording and before I decided I wanted to do this reading vlog, I made some cinnamon buns, some cinnamon rolls. So I heated one up this morning for breakfast. It was really good, really tasty. Yesterday, I read a chapter and a little bit of Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. So I finished chapter 1 and then started chapter 2. Part of me always idealistically thinks like, yeah, I'll stop at the end of a chapter, and then I stop a couple of paragraphs into the chapter or midway through. And at this point, I've just stopped trying. Like, if I'm going to stop reading, then I'm going to stop reading at any given moment. I usually try to find a good place to stop. Like with this part, I'm like right here, like basically right after this break right here. So it's like I try to find a good place to stop, such as a break in the page. And then I also read a chapter of Two Towers last night. I'm really enjoying this so far. Again, I'm struggling a little bit emotionally speaking because I'm attached to these characters thanks to the movies. Yesterday I didn't read any of this, but I did read a couple of pages of this earlier today. But I'm going to focus on trying to finish up a couple of chapters of this and get through it. And again, I have Lincoln playing in the background. This is just my comfort movie, and right now I've just been watching this on repeat, so yeah. I'm in chapter 8 right now, partway through. I'm gonna try to finish up this chapter, but Alia, I'm not trying to say her name. My mind is saying Alia, but then I'm just like looking at it now and like mentioning it for this. It's spelled Ayla. So I'm going to look up pronunciation. Ayla. Okay, they don't have like an AI or a vocal thing to say it, but like Ayla and Set have a really good dynamic, and it's really cute. I kind of like how honest they are with each other. Because of an event that happens, he comes out and tells her, I'm an Egyptian god, I'm the god of war, also the god of protection. After a little while, like, she comes to believe that, and again after certain events she does come to believe it. But they're both really honest with each other, and it's like kind of refreshing to have that kind of a dynamic where the two characters, the main love interests, like each other. They're not necessarily saying like I like you or I love you right off the bat, but they already like each other, and they're being so honest with each other about like everything that's going on and about how they're feeling for the most part, except for the whole I love you bit. But it's so refreshing to see this dynamic in fiction, in a fantasy book, because in a lot of cases you don't have that dynamic. Like in A Touch of Darkness, another god retelling, that one's Hades and Persephone. They're not always honest with each other. I had to delete 5 to 7 minutes of me talking because it was not going very well and I was not communicating very well, so I'm doing it again. With the miscommunication trope, my main issue is that either the lies that caused miscommunication or the withholding of all the information that caused the miscommunication, or both. Oftentimes those things are revealed too late, and oftentimes the reader already knows about the lie that was told, about the information that was withheld that led to the miscommunication. And that's something that bothers me, because in my case as a reader, if I already know about the lie that was told and the truth behind the lie, or if I already know about information that's withheld and I know the truth behind said withheld information, then I'm going to be less invested in the story, because it gets to a point, for me at least, where I'm just like, okay, let's just get to the part where they blow up at each other, or one person blows up at the other because of the lie, because of the withholding of information, because miscommunication can be either or both. Like, if I already know about it, then I'm losing interest, because it gets to a point where like I already know and I'm just waiting for the MC to find out, or the MC's love interest to find out, and then I'm waiting for that big shocking reveal that's not a shock anymore. Now, if a writer is to withhold that information from us as readers, then I'm more interested, because either A, I'm trying to figure out what was withheld, what was lied about, or I don't know, and then once you get the big shocking reveal, it's an actual big shocking reveal. So that's all I was trying to say. I don't want to say that I dislike the miscommunication trope just because I haven't read enough books that have that trope. The miscommunication trope just bothers me. I don't have a good explanation as to why. It just bothers me. Maybe it's just because I would rather these characters be upfront like they are in set rather. It's day 3 of the reading vlog. I did not read much last night after Joanne's. I did read another chapter of The Lord of the Rings of the Two Towers, so now I'm at chapter 3. But other than that, I did not do much reading yesterday. We are going to rectify that today though. But first, I have to send the Zoom link to my family for our bi-weekly, every other week Zoom read of The Lord of the Rings. And with that, we are currently in Fellowship of the Ring, about to start book 2 of Fellowship of the Ring. As I'm pretty sure I said, I decided to read ahead for Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and started Two Towers because I just wanted to read it, and if I want to read it, I'm not going to stop myself from reading it. I need to send that Zoom link real quick. It is actually a pretty gloomy day today, which is weird for Los Angeles. It is cloudy, it is weird. It does get cloudy here in Los Angeles, but not like, I don't want to say not like this because it gets cloudy like this, but it's always weird when it gets cloudy like this. And this is surprisingly where multiple editions come in handy. I got this edition for myself for my birthday last year, 2021, and I got this edition as a gift from a friend for Christmas last year, and I love them both so much. I use this one as my personal reading one to read ahead, and this is the edition I'm using to read with my family. And since the family and I are going to be reading this book a little later today, I'm not going to read this until after the fact. I think I'm going to focus my time on Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant for a little while, and then probably transition over to Set at some point. We'll see how everything goes. I need to repaint my nails, and I'm gonna read while I repaint my nails. I'm going to read the ebook set while my nails are drying, while they're prepping, so I don't have to worry about smudging them. The color I'm using is this one. It is Sally Hansen in Pink Stiletto, the Miracle Gel, color 509 or 345. And then I may use the sparkle one. It is Snow Globe, color 111 or 140. I'm not entirely sure if I will use Snow Globe, but we'll see. And I am currently at chapter 11 of Set. I am 38% of the way through the book. I'm making decent progress, which is nice. My next video should hopefully be a cosplay get ready with me video. Okay, so I've gotten one layer done on one hand. I'm also planning to do a couple of reaction videos to like cinema stuff, so I'm thinking Dark Crystal Age of Resistance which I've seen most of. I just haven't seen it in order, and I haven't seen all of it. I'm super bummed that they didn't renew it for a new season. First layer on both hands now done. We'll wait for this to dry and get on to the second layer. My nails, I ended up finishing them off camera. I did the sparkles on my ring finger for both hands, and then I just did all the others the regular pink. Yesterday, I also ended up finishing Set by Alyssa Thorne. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I mentioned this in my review on Goodreads and Storygraph, but it sort of felt like it had the falling in love with my protector, protectee vibes to it. But those vibes were really subtle, and the progression of Ayla's and Set's relationship was really smooth and really nice otherwise. And again, those vibes, the falling in love with protector, protectee vibes, were really subtle. So ultimately, it wasn't a big deal for me, and I really enjoyed the book. Last night, I started the second book, Toth. Now, that book is going to be like on the same level as Two Towers, where I'm going to be reading it, but there's no pressure to finish it within this vlog. Now the focus is solely on finishing Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I'm 3 chapters in, 45 pages in, really enjoying it so far. There are moments where I'm like kind of iffy about this book, or like about the way that one scene was written, but at the same time it's written well for the book and works well within the story. One scene in particular that stands out is when Tori starts berating SeaWorld in their holding of the orcas. She gets fired because of that. And part of me is just like, okay, this makes sense for her to speak up about it because she's a marine biologist. And it also makes sense that her boss fired her, at least for the rest of the season. It makes sense that her boss fired her because it's quite heavily implied that there's been quite a few moments where she's not necessarily berating SeaWorld all the time, but there's been quite a few moments similar to that where it's just gotten to the point for her boss that it's like too much. So it makes sense for the book, but at the same time, I would have liked to see the passengers aboard this whale-watching boat maybe asking her some questions about it, like upset that she's kind of like putting a damper on the mood because that's the main reason why she's fired. So it would make sense if they're upset that she put a damper on the mood and being out there watching the whales, etc. But at the same time, having a couple of them like asking questions about it, I feel like it would have given that scene more substance that I was hoping for. But other than that, this book is going really well. I'm barely even a fourth of the way through this book, and I don't know if I'll finish this in this reading vlog, but I'm hoping to get through a good chunk of it at least, and then maybe finish it. I'm making pretty good progress on Into the Drowning Deep. That's how far I am, how much I need to go. This one part near the end of chapter 3 really kind of bothers me. So, spoilers ahead if you don't want to hear this part. A character we were just introduced to, we're on page 53, 54, is named Theodore Blackwell, and he's a representative of Imagine Entertainment. Tori's obviously very upset hearing that he comes from Imagine and doesn't want anything to do with him, despite the fact that since her sister's death, she's been trying to persuade Imagine Entertainment to fund another expedition to figure out what happened to her sister's expedition at the Mariana Trench. This quote really annoys me. It's one of those quotes that works for the story, that works for the plot, and works so far for the character's personality, but it still bothers me. Mr. Blackwell took a step forward. There were dozens of Imagine employees on that boat. People I'd worked with for years. People I considered personal friends. My losses are greater than yours in volume, and again, I'm not the only one. Each of those people had a sister, Miss Stewart, or a brother, or a lover, or a parent. So yes, we want to know what happened as much as you do, if not substantially more. But there's always the other hand to consider, the hand which answers to shareholders in the court of public perception. The Artegus was a tragedy, one the world has, by and large, allowed to be forgotten. The footage is dismissed as false. The tragedy becomes an unavoidable accident. The word hoax overtakes the much less pleasant slaughter. There was no hoax. The footage is real. That quote is so profound in and of itself, but there are certain words, certain phrases that Blackwell decides to use that is just like really like, it's the words and phrases he uses to compare his pain, his losses, or other imagined employees' losses and pain to Tori's. And that's just something that bothers me. And again, as I said before reading that quote, it works for his character so far as far as we know him, and it works for the story, and he has a point. There were multiple people on the boat on the Arcticus, and he has a point. There were multiple people on the Arcticus, and Tori was not the only person who lost someone on the Arcticus, who lost a loved one. It just bothers me that he decided to compare like his pain, like I lost X number of colleagues and X number of people I considered close friends, or you just lost your sister. And it's like, do we really need to compare loss, especially if you believe that it wasn't a hoax, and especially if you believe that the footage the crew of the Arcticus caught was real? If you believe that, why are you trying to compare pain and suffering and loss when you both lost something because of that? That bothers me a little bit, but you know what? It's just a book. But at the same time, it's not just a book, so here we are. Final update of Into the Drowning Deep for today. I have not finished this, but as you can see, I've made pretty decent progress. This is your spoiler warning. If you don't want to have spoilers, I'm not censoring myself because I do want to talk about what I think. The last time I updated, I had just met Theodore Blackwell, and I was about 75% determined to not like him. He did not come off as likable. Now I'm 25 to 50% determined to not like him. You see how he is with his wife, who he's separated from but not divorced, and you see their dynamic, and it is just so sweet, despite the fact that Theodore and his wife, Dr. Jillian Toth, are at a point in their relationship where they can no longer be with each other. And it hasn't gotten to the point of divorce because there's that fear of divorce, of the final separation, which is such a real fear, especially when there are children involved like there are in Theodore and Jillian's case. They have one daughter, Lonnie, who's not really close to either of her parents, but they do seem to have a pretty decent, if not good, parent-child relationship. It's just not close-knit. And so far, I have tabbed this book quite a bit. So my mission to tab this book seems to be going pretty well. I'm just tabbing whatever scenes I feel stick out to me, or quotes. One interaction that I thought was a sweet mother-daughter interaction. Sweet in the sense that it's kind of typical for a mother-daughter relationship, for a healthy one at least, is when Jillian tells Lonnie that she'll be going with Imagine on the second expedition to the Mariana Trench. Lonnie asks, does Dad know? He's the one who invited me to go. Lonnie left, short and bitter. Wow, I can't tell if that's his tomcat way of giving you a dead mouse so you'll love him again, or if it's him trying to get you killed so he can move on. Want to take a bet? It was Jillian's turn to say nothing and look silently at her daughter. Lonnie looked away first. I'm sorry, she said. That was mean. Something being mean doesn't mean it isn't true. You know your father and I love each other. We always will. Sometimes loving each other isn't enough to make up for all the things you know about the other person. And then a little later, a couple sentences later, Jillian's reflecting on her relationship with Theo. And this reflection is basically saying, what was the point in finalizing their divorce? They could always be married where it counted, in the horrors they had shared. I just feel like that whole scene encapsulates what it's like to be in a relationship. You may divorce, you may terminate the relationship in whatever way possible, but the memories of that relationship still stay with you. I'm really enjoying this book so far. And I kept going back and forth with not realizing that this is set in 2022. And it was published in 2017, I believe, set in 2022. And then the Arcticus situation takes place in 2015, 7 years before this story. I will update you all tomorrow with where I get, because I do plan to read a bit more tonight. I'm wearing makeup because I was at lunch with my dad, and as I was thinking about it, I decided that today, day 6, is going to be the last day of the vlog, just because 7 days was my limit and I pretty much accomplished what I wanted to do. At first, I was going to talk a little bit about Barnes & Noble before giving my wrap up, but then I was like, you know what? I'm not repeating anything new. I don't think Barnes & Noble should be doing that, be announcing that they're only listing hardcovers of basically the bestsellers and basically of authors who are already bestseller authors. I don't think they should do that. That's all I'll say. I want to give my wrap up real quick. I finished Set, the first book in the Gods of the Duat by Alyssa Thorne. I started Thoth by Alyssa Thorne, which is the second book, and I'm already 85% of the way through this book, and I'm loving it. I ended up not reading too much more of Into the Drowning Deep last night. I didn't read anything else last night after I recorded my reactions to this, to what I'd read yesterday, but I do plan to try to finish this up because I'm really enjoying it and I want to know what happens. And then with Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, I'm now 7 chapters in to The Two Towers at Helm's Deep, so I'm really enjoying my reading so far. I honestly think this was a really successful reading vlog and a really successful incentive to read some more and to get through some of my reading, which I've done. As usual, my socials, Instagram, Book Talk, and my Mercari and Pango books are all linked down below in the description. Thank you all for watching and stay tuned for next week's video.